Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Between the Sharks. It's 1 billion degrees. We're here with the Jeep-O-Mobile. It didn't fix itself. The bagpipers of Greater Smyrna are also playing us along. Let's see if it'll start, and then we're gonna see what we can do here. Whoa! Come on! Oh, come on! Man, that battery, whew, that battery is ancient. Well, now that you guys are watching, it's idling just fine. It's hard to hear over those infernal bagpipes, but we'll take a look under the hood. There we go. There it is. There, it's doing it. All right, that's the issue. Last time I drove it, as soon as I gave it some throttle, it just started missing and sputtering. Alright, that's not under load, that's nothing. Check it out. That's not good. Alright gang, that could be a handful of things, and the problem is, the most important too, it could be our fuel or fire. So let's break it down. If it's fuel related, it just means it's not getting enough fuel under load, which means the carburetor could be gucked up, fuel filter could be gucked up, fuel pump could be weak, or anywhere along the way we could have the tiniest crack in a fuel line and it could be pulling air under load. I know that sounds crazy, but I've had it happen twice before. And the mystery thing about those things is when I've had a rubber fuel hose pull air in, it doesn't necessarily leak fuel, and that makes it a lot harder to find. So on the ignition side, we could have anything from a crack in the distributor cap to ancient plug wires that are arcing across each other at higher RPM, a coil that can't keep up, a rotor that can't keep up, some other bigger ECU, ECM problem, because this thing does have some kind of computerized wizardry. Plugs could be shot, all of it. For the sake of control, let's see if we can fire this up and have it do that again. All right, I'll take it. So now we can change part by part and see if we get an improvement. Let's start with the easy stuff. Let's go with the fuel filter. Of course, I use the Mercury as the storage for the parts for the Jeep that I didn't install last time I looked at this problem. Not a lot of give here, so we're going to pull this off to get access to these here hose clamps, but we'll also take a look at just the fuel lines that run from here to here. You never know. You never know. This does have a lot of stuff connected to it. It's unfortunate that way. Like 2 more vacuum hoses. These are fragile. Got the brandy new replacement Wix fuel filter, but because I'm getting into this, I'm gonna go root around. If I have a clear fuel filter, I may put that in line too, so I can eyeball visualize the fuel situation, because I can learn a lot from that. Gang, I'm gonna do something I qualify as dumb. I'm gonna go ahead and pull the fuel filter off a running vehicle to diagnose a more different vehicle. Because that problem's happening consistently, I want to be able to see the fuel flow. I'm still going to change the filter and all that, but I want to see what's what. and I can't seem to find a spare, and that's a shame. So here I am doing dumb things. Dumb things, guys, dumb things. So this is extra dumb too, because I'm beginning this project 5 o'clock on a Sunday. I gotta work tomorrow. I'm disabling 2 vehicles. That's twice as dumb as disabling 1. I'm no expert, but I do think this is a factory setup here on the El Jeepamobile. Fuel line comes up over the head. I've added this little clear filter so we can see what's going on. Then it goes to one of these filters. Now, guys, I seriously just lost the new one. I was gonna explain how they worked. Bad choices. Like everything else, I just dove in completely unprepared. I thought, let's do this right now. I found you, you sneaky little devil. Fuel flows through the center, but this goes to the bypass. So if your fuel pump is creating too much pressure or whatever, it allows the fuel to return to the tank should your tank have a return. I run these on the van and on the Blazer because there is a return to the tank. You can always add a return to the tank, and what that does, ladies and gentlemen, is allows, guess what, neighbor's dogs are back. The return to the tank allows fuel to continue to flow even when there's not a high fuel demand. And what that means is fuel is not boiling in the line, say, when it's sitting right on top of the head or right above the exhaust manifold. See what I'm saying? I don't really love this system though, because to me it seems like we got our highest point here and then we run back down to the tank through the bypass that runs somewhere over yonder ways. I would imagine that could indeed siphon the fuel from the fuel pump up and over and return it to the tank, especially if things are hot. So anyway, let's fire it back up and see if we have a fuel starvation issue, see if we can tell anything from this. This is not the ideal arrangement for it, but it'll work, I think. Tally-ho. That's showing the fuel pump pumping. That's pretty good fuel flow. Haha. We just stalled it while we've got plenty of fuel flow. Doesn't mean we're getting fuel flow to the carb yet, but we'll swap this fuel filter and then we'll see if that changes the problem. If it doesn't, I'm starting to lean toward ignition, gang. New fuel filters installed, old fuel filters back on the truck, and I only lost 1 hose clamp. Around here, that warrants a good solid golf clap.
Golf clap? Golf clap.
Let's try this again, see if we get any more differenter results. Not counting on it. Make no mistake, that's actually better, but it's still running like an old Evinrude. So, still leaning towards ignition at this point. It could absolutely be in the carburetor, but guys, look at that. Any one of you Jeep guys want to explain this? I got 1, 2, 3, 4 like that, and then this, and then what? Like, why are they all different? Like, but they're different here too. None of this makes any sense. Why you got some of these and some of these? Why you got some of these and some of those? I don't understand. So the higher RPM thing is a clue. There's a bunch of ignition things that could go wrong at higher RPMs. One of the simplest is that plug wires can arc to each other if they've got a wear spot. And you know what makes a wear spot? That. So I'm gonna replace the plug wires and then we'll try it again. We do have a cap and a rotor. We may go that far, but we're just gonna keep on going one piece at a time, firing it back up and seeing what we get. I do them one at a time, that way I don't get it out of order. Now granted, I should go ahead and check the order at some point because I don't speak Jeep nearly enough. Now remember, I don't know the history of this thing. I don't know the last time it was worked on. All I know is it was at a mechanic shop around the corner for years and years. We finally were like, we got to buy one of those things. And I was like, we should go check in and see if that one was for sale. This one turned out to be sort of a mechanic special that I think he took in on trade. He was going to putter around with it, maybe give it to his wife, and then it never really happened. And it came in for a ticking noise with the radiator fan, but that was because of a slight fender bender and possibly in shipping when it got here from Hawaii, then Texas, then here. And the fan was hitting the shroud, which is broken and not here anymore, but we have it. Anyway, what I'm saying is, who knows how old this stuff is? I think it's really, really old. You ladies and gentlemen at home, zip tie your wires together. I don't, because I feel like it creates a point for chafing, but maybe it's better than having them loosey-goosey, but I don't think so. I don't know. I'm definitely too lazy for those like weird finger things that hold them apart, but I'm probably not too lazy for zip ties all the time. I just feel like it's a bad idea. Put it in the comments. You guys let me know. What do you do? Oh, come on, give it up. There we go. See, that's a spot where it could definitely have been arcing right at the zip tie. Not sure if it was, I'm just saying it could be. Thing about coil wires that's not always clear is I pull them way out, like past the boot. Basically, you're sliding the boot back because, I mean, obviously you don't want to break anything, but these guys have to get way down in there to make contact. And once you get it, you can slide the boot back down. It's one of those things where just because the boot's on doesn't mean you got a good connection in there. That's a really big deal on all of these, but coil wire most especiallyist. So luckily for us at this point, the problem is manifestable right here in the yard, because wasn't really doing this earlier. Whatever it is has gotten worse, so now it stalled just by running up the throttle. So if you've got a road test, if you're doing all these parts changes, I wouldn't do them all at once. I'd road test between every single one, because you need to know if you're making anything better. More importantly, you need to know if you're making it worse. There we go. Just the wires, little improvements, could be a little bit of everything. Let's do the cap. Got the brand new cap. It looks about the same. Check the firing order on the old internet. Internet's never wrong, never lies, so the firing order is currently right. So we just got to do a swap-a-rooney, and then we'll swap the caps, and then maybe that will be better. We'll go ahead and get the rotor while we're in there as well. The way I do this is I'm going to line this up like so, transfer all the plug wires, and hope for the best. This is labeled with 1, so we will stick with 1 there, and then which that looks correct. So that's how we're gonna do it. New cap's wired up, hanging down in the breeze. Man, oh man, thing is rusty and doesn't want to come out. It says a lot about how long this thing has been in here. We got some weird brown coloration, but also every single one of those has corrosion and like some funkiness about it. Yeah, that's bad. You can see how green and pitted that is, plus whatever those brown marks are, and the misshapenness of some of them. This thing is ready for replacement. Good thing we got one. Yeah. Whoa, yeah. Yep. Wow. See that leading edge right there? That's been arcing weird and causing that. There you go. There is the difference. A little goes a long way when you're talking about parts like this. But yeah, that's how that's supposed to look. Not so much like that. It's a little crusty in there. I'm gonna go ahead and knock in some contact cleaner because I got it. Why not? And remember, before you put this thing together, make sure your new rotor goes on, because if you put this together without that, nothing's gonna happen. Definitely made that mistake before. You feel real dumb. The amount of dumb you feel is directly related to how long it takes you to find the rotor sitting on the fender. You know the drill, gang. We're gonna fire it up, see if it does any different. As big an improvement as I thought we were going to see based on how worn this cap is. Huh. Time to do the plugs. Number one just does not want to come out. It's not good. Oh, my all out of looby dooby. Also, I moved this car into the shade. The thing about shade is it ain't always where it used to be. Boy. What about number two? All right, at least we can just do a little diagnostic. Oofda May. All right, it's pretty crusty. And it's blazing hot, I can tell by touching it. Observation tells us, yeah. So I don't know where my gapping tool is, so I just use a feeler gauge, grab the 017 and the 018, and that gets us to the 035, which that one was gapped correctly out the box. Guys, the sun used to be not there, and it's so much hotter. I can't see nothing because I'm sweating in my own eyes. Ugh. Ooh, look, we got a heater hose leak. So I'm on to number 6. Number 1's still in there. They just look worn out. We'll take a look at them in a second. But this reminded me that I usually, on inline 6, start from the back, because that's the most aggravating one to reach. That's where all the stuff is. That's my little piece of advice. Start with the plugs that are the hardest to get to first, because you're not going to want to do them when you're all tired and sweaty, and work your way towards the easy ones. Cylinder 2, cylinder 3, cylinder 4, cylinder 5, cylinder 6. To me, those just look worn out. So if you see something else, I mean, a little carbon fouling on number 2. If you see something I don't see, go ahead and put it in the comments. Number 1 doesn't want to budge, which makes me think it's worse than number 2. But right now, we got the sun going down. Shoulder Devil is saying, just go get the breaker bar, it'll come loose. Shoulder Angel is saying, look dog, this has gone relatively well and you haven't broken anything yet. And a bad number 1 spark plug is way better than a broken off number 1 spark plug. And today I'm gonna listen to the Shoulder Angel. A weird turn of events. So I'm gonna put this back on. I'll let this ride. We'll jam some more looby dooby on it. We'll wait till the engine's cool. We'll try it at some point. This engine's holding a ton of heat because it's 90 degrees out right now. The shade is a little bit helpful on me, but it's not like it's cooling off. But let's continue what we've been doing. Let's fire it up. We still got a little miss at higher RPMs, that's for sure. I've been starting it without setting the choke or the fast idle, so that's just, I've been turning the key, just letting it do its thing. I do think the number 1 spark plug's a problem, but we're better off than we were. Like a lot better off. Remember that time when it just stalled by opening the throttle? sad to say we have not found it yet, gang. Do a little bit of Berryman's down the Yap. I'm a little disappointed. Now, I do know that these 4.2 liter Jeeps are notorious because of their ICM ECU computer controlled carburation system. Nobody likes it, but I'm not ready to say that's the problem yet. I do need to do some research on it. What we did do is go through a tune-up, and yet we yielded the same problem. It's very bizarre. Now, it still could be the carburetor. It absolutely could be, but I got a rule around here, and I don't open up a carburetor unless I got a kit, and I don't have a kit for that thing. In fact, I don't even know what it is. So I'm gonna try to find a kit, order a kit. That way, if I break a gasket taking it apart, I'm not up a creek. But we're gonna do some research too. There's something that people call the Nutter bypass, which is, you know, the internet swears by it for these things, which bypasses a lot of the ICM and computer controls and adjustments. But before I agree to that, I need to read and figure out how this thing even works, because it's tomorrow, gang. So you think you know something. That leads into a lot of assumptions about what you know. You think you're familiar with a thing, and then it's not what you believed at all. So it took all of about 3.2 seconds on the old internet last night to learn what Jeep guys have known for several decades. That thing, to me, looks like a carbo-rating machine, but in reality, it is a bird of another feather. Remember all that time we were doing the is it fuel, is it fire, and changing out parts? I do. Turns out the answer to the is it fuel or fire question is very likely to just be yes. Through the radio microwaves, somehow through the cosmos, two words entered my brain. Two words I did not understand the meaning of. Two words that defied space and time from the shouts of all of the Jeep people out there in the world, shouting at their computer and television screens. Nutter bypass. Nutter bypass. Nutter bypass. Of course, I did not understand what the collective consciousness of the Jeep universe was trying to tell me. I didn't know what the Nutter bypass was. I'm not really a Jeep guy. I'm more of a hot dog man myself. So I used a magical and powerful tool called the internet. And I learned more about this Jeep in one night than I'd bothered to learn about it in the 2 years that we had it. So let's dive in. For reference, this is what an inline six looks like to me. Carburetor, intake, plugs, wires, distributor, viola. Over here, we got extra wires coming out of the distributor, vacuum wizardry like you wouldn't believe. And over here on the carbureting machine, we got this protrusion hooked to this kind of electrical gasmosisms. In addition to all of the vacuum lines that we've been noting. There's a bunch here, some cracks there, 6 more up here. Don't know what that is. So where I come from, there's 3 vacuum lines. One for the brake booster if you got power brakes, one to the distributor for vacuum advance, and one to the PCV valve if you got one of those things, and it's not just a road draft tube. Really where I come from, it could be one vacuum line, and that's to the distributor. I put on my blinders and just ignored all that. And that led us to the Jeep Cosmos having to intervene. Has something to do with the Jeep hand signals and ducks on the windshield and Nutter bypass. So apparently this distributor connects to an ECM that actively adjusts the timing based on the readings this thing is getting from the vacuum lines and a bunch of sensors and a bunch of hoo-ha. In addition, this magical carburetor, this is actually a stepper motor that adjusts the carburetor actively in relationship to the timing through an ECM that I believe is somewhere buried. So considering the internet loves to hate stuff, they hate this system and they hate the reasons for it, which are believed to be emissions. Whatever, maybe it worked back in the day. Some people say it didn't. I don't know. When I got this thing, it was already 35 something years old and it ran great for 2.5 years. However, this problem seemed to develop kind of overnight, and we do have some rodents and it is that old, and if a couple of these vacuum lines kind of got nibbled on as like test snacks, or they just cracked and rotted, whatever it is, we could be seeing incorrect information being fed to the computers, which could lead to Well, the computer trying to constantly adjust the carburetor and the timing no matter what we do. So the Nutter bypass seems to be named after a fella named John Nutter, who figured out how to bypass the electronic timing controls through the computer, and in addition, to slightly modify this carburetor and its adjustment so that this thing operates more like a standard carbureted inline six with timing that you adjust and set. That's stuff I know how to do. Now, as far as I understand, it's a matter of taking two of the wires that come out of the distributor, bypassing the ECM, and tying them directly into the ignition control module. I feel very qualified to do that. The diagrams are all over the internet. It claims if we pull this motor off, we can set the distance of the pins that this motor adjusts, and then just leave the thing unplugged, at which point this carburetor will function much like a standard carburetor, and we will just adjust it like a standard carburetor. That will save me the couple $100 of the carburetor swapification, which is also an option when you're doing the Nutter bypass. The way I see it standing right here in front of you fine people, it's either I splice two wires, make a quick carburetor modification, hopefully quick carburetor modification, or I spend my eternity trying to figure out which of these vacuum hoses is sending the wrong signal to the wrong sensor, or what sensor isn't working to allow the system to function more properly. Because this is a reversible thing, and obviously my knowledge is more, you know, in that world over there, I think we're gonna do the old Nutter bypass. I'll say it again, that's right, Nutter bypass. I've got some pretty good company who's up to the task, but unfortunately, considering the sun is going down, thoughts are, I wonder if I can, you know, shuffle everything and then slide it in here right under the Model T. That's probably what I should have done all along. Well, according to my calculations, that's 68 inches and that's 66 inches. So we'll just see if she'll fire it. We'll romp it around the yard and, you know, just nose it in. That'll be good enough for us. Let me get you. Let me get you. Free dog. Dog loves this Jeep. That's all the reason in the world to fix the thing. Doctor. All right, so one of the first things we got to do here is clean the wires a little bit. We're basically going from purple to purple on the distributor, purple to purple, right here on the electronic ignition control modulator. All right, so if it sounds like I don't know what I'm doing, there's a very good reason for that. Guess I'm just pretending to be a mechanic again. Shouldn't do that. I was warned on YouTube. I'll go with one of those for Halloween. All right, they're pretty faded, but I think I can see an orange, a purple, and a black. Seems clear enough to me. Start hacking stuff up with directions from the internet. Sure. So the control module we're trying to get to is under here. I believe there's an ECM and an ICM, so let's just get involved with the ignition part, which we have to get to. Here's the loom. This is the loom that goes down to it, so I'm gonna clean these up. Feels to me like if there's an orange and purple in here, we might be able to save ourselves some trouble. But I'm not seeing that. So it might be on the other side of the connector, or we might be getting into a world of research. Well, that one might be purple. This one's definitely yellow. I'm not seeing orange. Everything changes color at this insane contraption connector. The good news is there's orange and purple down there. So far the internet's not lying to me. Guys, I'm in one of those mystery time suck vortexes. One stupid bolt that I've been working on for a half hour, using every combination of extension and doohickey and gizmo. And man, I can't get it out. If I ever do, This reservoir is held on with 3 bolts. It's not going back in with 3. I'll tell you that right now. Oh my Lord. What you get? It's what you get for trying to get something done after a long day of work. Trying to move something forward. Aggravation. Aggravation. We'll give it credit. It was doing its job real good. It held right the hell on to the last second. That's it. That's all we've accomplished. Removing this. This is what we're working towards here. I'm gonna pop this guy out. Feels like 2 bolts from inside the fender. You can slide it on up. We'll be able to deal with it. All right, those guys fought me significantly less. Oh, did I speak too soon? Is there another one down there? Son of a... Just seems like a curious place for that. Like, that's way down there. And it's got electronics in it, and if this thing goes through the mudding, then I'm very glad this Jeep was not all mudded. Bubbaed up. Got enough bubbaed up stuff around here. You know, you gotta be careful buying the Jeeps and the old trucks, because the Bubbas like them. All right, that is mo better. So we clearly have the orange and purple, so I guess we're splicing these guys with the ones over there. All right, now we're sort of ready to begin the procedure. But because of that, it's a good stopping point. When you start late, it only gets later. So I wanna do this in one fell swoop. Wiring, carburetor, everything, hopefully to disable the car for the least amount of time necessary. Because right now, technically, it'll run. Despite that, I'm still just gonna shove it out the door. But we'll tidy everything up, and then we'll be able to pick this project up pretty much ready to work. How's that for optimism? Captain's log, day 29 on the Jeep. She's still not Jeeping. You might be thinking, hey, this guy's doing it better this time. Sun's out, he's got some time. Nope, the sun is going down. But we actually have a new tool for that. Bam! Bam, look at this guy. Woobin X3. So I'm a little proud of this thing because it's the first thing I've ever gotten in the mail based on this YouTube channel. Feels like a major award.
If he won that, it's a major award.
But it's also been super useful. I've been carrying it around for about a week now, and it's impressive. Let's look at it real quick. So this thing's proving actually to be a very good work light. It's hard to show the quality of work light on a camera because cameras are not the human eye. Short version is it has quick settings from 1 lumen to 50 lumens to 150 lumens, and it's got this turbo mode of 700 lumens. So that actually makes more light than this. But this thing doesn't fit in my pocket very well, and this thing sure does. Watch. It's got a magnet. Essential for a work light. This has already basically replaced my phone as a flashlight. This thing I'm super pleased with so far. They are doing a sale sometime soon, and because these guys are groovy, they're putting a discount in for anybody who watches the show. It's like, I'm not sponsored by them, but they did send me this thing. All right, so down in there, there is a little needle. You can kind of see it. I think that's about where we want it set. We just don't want it moving. This is the part that's the least clear in the instructions I found online. That needle is controlled by this stepper motor. What they suggest is you take the stepper motor off, set the needle, and put the motor back on. I just don't know why the motor doesn't start engaging, or why you can't just unplug it or something. So anyway, I guess I'm gonna take this off and see what we can do here. All right, so this is 4 Phillips head screws. Interesting. I don't really see a way to do what we're supposed to do here. Gang, these things don't seem to want to move for me anyway, so I don't really know what I'm doing here. We're gonna jam it back in there because, I don't know, by my eyeballs, it looked like it was set where the internet said to leave it. They use the words front and back when talking about adjusting these needles, like an 1/8 inch from the back of the carburetor. However, all the photographs seem to show it as the front of the carburetor. So basically we're gonna make this up. We'll figure it out. So fortunately I know enough about cars to not be terribly scared of this, but basically the idea is we're removing that electronic controlled stepper motor that does adjust fuel mixture, which could be problematic if the information it's getting to adjust it is from a bad sensor or a bad vacuum line, of which there could be many. Here I am, you know, judging people on the internet going, you just need purple wire and orange wire. Just go get purple and orange wire. And you know what? I don't have any purple or orange wire. Well, I don't have long enough purple or orange wire. So now, you know, I'm just gonna ignore it. We're gonna pick some different colors. So apparently, we're gonna knit these orange and purpley ones right, y'all. And then I'm gonna snip in some red and green because of Christmas. Oh boy. Well, that could be problematic. All these wires are chafed really bad and stripped out. So if they're arcing across each other, well, that could maybe cause some of what we're dealing with here and trying to fix. And even if we do this completed nutter bypass and we've got distributor architude, we're gonna be in trouble. So let's pop the cap off and see what we got going on. That is a huge issue. If those are all chafed going into this housing and this is grounding out, I just didn't notice this when I did the cap. Well, let's see if we can repair it first. Have a closer look at our situation here. Now, I'm no rocket surgeon, but I got a light brown and a dark brown that seem to pass through this strain relief isolator and what appears to be the ground that goes to this thing. But given the condition our condition's in, I think I gotta bypass this whole thing and just connect our brown to brown and ground our black to the distributor, which we can do. It will leave a little gap right here under the cap, which may let moisture in, so we'll do a little electrical tape. But I want to test this. If the issue is two wires shorting each other in our ignition module inside the distributor, no matter what kind of bypass we do, it ain't gonna do it, you know what I mean? So let me see if I can do a redneck repair on this right quick, and then we'll try it out. So the corrosion on both sides of the connector that I just cut out is pretty intense, so I think more than enough to have potentially caused our problem. I am still going to try to patch it up for experiment's sake, because, well, what if that's the problem? This little feller finally tuckered out, so I had to figure out where the charger was and how it works. Jams down right in there, and then I need to hook up a thingamadoodle to this. Not sure if you guys are a fan of fancy packaging, but as soon as I pulled this out, girlfriend said, "Ooh, that's neat." Oh, interesting. Look at me not even paying attention. The box is its own charger. What happens if we turn it on in there? Ah, look at that. All right. All right, so that's pretty rad. The charging box is its own battery unit. So it's in there and charging even though it's not plugged in. But I am gonna pull this USB 3 and start charging the charging box while this charges. I do like that, because if you're out traveling or camping or broken down by the side of the road, having an extra chargification, good job, Woobin. So what we have here is absolutely nothing more than a patch job, but it should be a good enough patch job to see if that was what was causing our problems. See if it'll die. Sure seems like a similar problem still. It's also the middle of the night again, apparently. We are definitely getting on to too late in the night for this project, but here we are anyway. Got to work at 6 this morning. It is now 10 p.m. and I'm cutting up a Jeep. Gotta use the shrink wrap if you're gonna use cheap connectors. These vehicles do have two different control models. A solid state ignition control module that we are messing with now, and a solid state ECM, which is the other one. All right, so the wiring part of the Nutter bypass is complete. Basically, we just jumped from the distributor to the ignition control module. There's a whole timing step. We've already failed at the carburetor step. The obvious thing to do is to try it. All hope is not lost yet. We still have one more step, which is actually timing this engine, which is not gonna be a tonight project. It's a million o'clock. We've made a lot of adjustments and gotten the exact same results. I mean, maybe it just needed a carburetor rebuild the whole time. Don't know. Gang, it's like Groundhog Day. Worked a 12-hour day, sun's going down, Jeep still has the same problems. No matter what we do, Jeep has the same problems. So I'm starting to figure the only way out of this is to fall in love with Andie MacDowell and have her love me in return. At least we're halfway there. Andie MacDowell, if you watch this Between the Shocks YouTube program, you know, reach out. I'll wait.
It's Groundhog Time.
Today my pals over at O'Reilly hooked me up with a carburetor kit. We stopped on the way home, so if we have to get in this carburetor, we can, because you know, there's a chance it's just a dirty carburetor. Not even kidding you. That could be the issue. So down in there, it does not have a traditional timing tab. It has some sort of like medieval farming tool in miniature. So I marked in white what should be 8 degrees, and I marked the balancer so we should be able to read that. Jeep people on the internet who explain this whole process here say 8 degrees is a good starting point. So we're gonna fire it up, we're gonna check the timing and just see where it lands, because again, this is very, very different than the procedure that you would normally do per the manual, which involves running it up to 1600 RPM, banging some chicken bones together, standing on your left foot with your tongue out to the side with your right eye closed. All right, so I didn't mark the balancer as well as I hoped, apparently, but it's hanging out right at 1 or 2 degrees, basically. Got the glove, ready to time it. We're gonna go for 8 degrees, see what that does. That's significantly advancing it from where we are now, so I guess we'll see. I use the glove because you're sweaty enough and grounded enough, and that coil wire goes, you'll remember. Get happier? I did. Right at 8. Okay, Jeep people, let's see what 8 does. At this point, I feel like we're running out of options here. Signs are pointing to the carburetor. We've got issues at open throttle, so vacuum, I feel like will become less of an issue as the throttle's open because there's already so much air going in. So it feels less like it's a vacuum situation, feels less like it's a timing situation, but definitely feels like a fuel situation, which in this car could become a vacuum situation, but that's a long story. Either that or it's an Andie MacDowell situation. Would that it were. Look at this carburetor. Guys, if that rat's nest of vacuum hoses doesn't freak you right out, then you're a Jeep guy. I don't even know how to begin to take this thing apart or off and remember where all the crap went. This is not an easy one to work on. All right. I think that's the last thing connected to it. I'm at a, oh no, the fuel line. Will it come off? I'm at the point where like, I am genuinely hoping to see a mud cake in there or something. Like, I want a smoking gun. Bad. All right, so I got this monstrosity off. I am hoping that we find a smoking gun. I mean, is it a ton of trash, or is it like, do I hope for like a destroyed accelerator pump? Story continues, still don't know what I'm doing. We're taking it apart anyway. If I said this thing wasn't fighting me every step of the way, I would be lying to you. I mean, That looks reasonably carburetor-y. That looks okay. Those look okay. When you get this far into a project, there's an illogical emotion that happens where you're wishing to find something bad because, you know, you're at your wit's end and you need something that indicates you might be on the right track. So right now we are getting that. These bowls are full of silt. Like, it's not a ton. I've definitely seen worse, but that's enough to suggest that some of these passages may not be as clean as they need to be, potentially indicating that all we've had this whole time is a carburetor issue needing a rebuild. Granted, none of the stuff that we've done so far, except maybe the distributor bypass thing, didn't already need to be done. All that tune-up stuff needed to be done, despite the fact it was not exactly what was causing our problem. All right, ladies and gentlemen, she's back together. Blew through all the passages, did the basic carburetor clean out situation. Unfortunately, it's already past 11 and I got another 12-hour workday tomorrow. It definitely needed to be cleaned out. Whether or not this is the smoking gun, well, we're gonna have to wait till tomorrow to find out. Luckily for you, that's right now. Whew, it's bright and early, ladies and gentlemen. Got a couple little brown dog coffee and I'm waiting for it to kick in. Got the carburetor rebuilt, I think. Definitely cleaned out. I think the issue was in the Venturi circuit, or that's how it feels when we're running it. Cleaned all that out, that is clear. Starting with new base and riser gaskets. Drop old carburetor Magoo on. In our observations, the stepper motor on this thing that was supposed to adjust everything wasn't working. Or didn't appear to be when I looked down in there and moved the throttle a bunch. It never budged. Which, I guess in our case, is okay. So now we can set the idle properly. All right, gang. I spared you the reattachification of this carburetor because this episode's likely to be as long as Dances with Wolves at this point. I've got everything hooked back the way we took it off. For the sake of science, we're trying to use the exact same parameters we had when we took it off, but now that it's cleaner, see if we get any difference in its running, because if so, that will indicate that the carburetor was the problem all along. And if you're wondering if I'm really hoping that the carburetor suddenly changes the result for the better, yeah, I am. I'm tired of working on this at this point. A lot of late nights, and it's real early on a Saturday morning because I got a lot to do this weekend. I'm stalling now because I don't want to find out that that didn't help. Let's try it. So I got this engine a little warmer than I want it to be for changing the heater hose. And by changing the heater hose, I mean like cutting off the rotten end and hoping for the best by jamming it back on. But I got this in the mail recently, so I want to dive in and take a minute and figure out how it works. So if you've watched the channel for a long time, I've got these two battery chargers, and every time I've got a dead battery, I'm finding my 100-foot extension cord and running out into the land and charging things because I've never had a jump pack. This is the 220 Plus jump starter and battery tester. That's why I'm particularly interested in it at the moment, because as we featured on this Jeep before, this battery is from 2013, right? John. It's still kicking. So I want to know if this thing A, works, but B, I want to know what's up in that battery. So let's figure this out. So the things that got me interested in this were, it's a jump pack, but it's a battery tester. And I got a lot of car batteries that sit for a long time and then die. And I do like to check them because if the warranty is about to go out, then, you know, I'll warranty the battery. So this thing as a jump pack was interesting because of its size, and I don't have a jump pack and it's portable. And as you can see, I got cars all over the place. There's junk everywhere. So running a big extension cord and hooking up a battery charger it can be a bit of a pain in the butt. So this is hopefully going to be helpful, but its size makes it portable. And for me, if you drive old cars, like, better safe than sorry, but if you break down, this thing actually has USB ports. So if you watch the channel for any period of time, I was raving about these Ryobi batteries. They're 40 volts for yard equipment, basically. That's what I have them for. But if you take the charger with you, you can use a USB port on the charger to pull the juice from the battery to charge a more differenter battery. So I took those with me on Power Tour in case of emergency, which I still highly recommend, but they didn't serve much purpose beyond that. I didn't have any tools that needed those batteries. If it's a jump pack that helps somebody out, possibly me, and if I don't need it, it's an emergency phone charger. That's kind of, I don't know, it's a good design. I like it. All right, it says searching for device, but that's because I don't have it all plugged up. Let's see. Let's do battery test. Say regular flooded battery. Cold cranking amps are the standard. It's asking for the cold cranking amps, but it's in such bad shape that I don't really know. We'll punch that in. I'm making this up as I go. I'm just following the prompts. I think it's fully charged. Let's confirm. State of health, 31%. State of charge, 76%. I find this information fascinating because I believe it to be true considering how old this battery is. Let's go test the battery I just put in the Cadillac. Oh, and you can save it. Interesting, as it instantly screenshots it. Cool. Photo saved. That's neat. All right, so we're over here on the Cadillac. We're gonna try the same test. While this battery is pretty new, I've let it sit for a while. So cold cranking amps, let's go with, this one's 800. It's telling me good battery condition, 91% state of health. All right. This is neat. I'm gonna put this away, but that's super neat. I think I'm gonna use the snot out of this thing. With any luck, it'll actually help chase down bad grounds, which I've had, because if the battery tests good, then we'll know there's bad grounds. Also, I can just see a ton of utility in it with the USB charger to take it around so I don't have to carry the Ryobi batteries. Jump starting ability we'll have to test when I have a dead battery. I think they're like 120 bucks and they'll be on sale very soon. And there's a link in the description for a discount too. So I don't have a way to test the jumping capacity of that thing, but the way I'm looking at it right now, for like 100 bucks, if the jumping capacity works, that's a huge bonus. But for somewhere around $120, if the jumping capacity works at all, that's a huge bonus. But otherwise, it's a battery for a charger plus a battery tester, which if you're gonna take my advice and buy a Ryobi battery and charger to take with you on a road trip or a power tour, well, this system costs about the same amount, plus the tester's pretty cool. All right, I think we're good enough here. I want to show you this because this is a good roadside fix. I've had to actually do this on the road, where you end up having to pull the heater hose and you got to trim it past the cut and stick it back on. It's a pretty simple idea, but it'll save you in a pinch. The goal is to get just past that. So we're going to cut this off right here, shove it back on, make it stretch. It's going to be great. There we are, back in business. We just pulled it out of its main routing thing on the side of the valve cover, ran it around, plenty of line. So we got to road test this thing, and I'm pretty excited about it actually. It was doing so much better when we tested it here right outside the garage, but it's still gross. We need to give it the full business here and just like, let's knock the barnacles off it. Let's go full fresh start. Let's commit. Look at these barnacles. Good gracious. We got Mr. Spider-Man hanging out up here. Oof, duh. Dang. So this thing could definitely stand for a coat of wax and probably a bunch of other stuff that I'm also not going to do today. It's almost test drive time. If you watch the channel, that means we're going to the Hamburger Man. Not bad. All right, in the immortal words of Captain Ron, if it's gonna happen out there. I'm actually really looking forward to it. I love driving this thing when it's working good. So it's been kind of a bummer that it's been unreliable. I got about 8 hours into it at this point. just diagnosing the tune-up very, very slowly. If we had just gone for the tune-up straight off, just done everything all at once, it would have been way faster. But again, I like the step-by-step method because that proved what it wasn't. Now, none of this was a waste because fire's right up now. You guys remember it used to turn over and turn over and turn over. Now, like, I didn't even touch the gas, just fired right up. Holy crap. Dang. What a difference. Let's go take it on some windy hills and stuff and see what happens. I'm hitting that, like, not only is it super fun to drive, I'm also getting that massive sense of relief. Like, we fixed the problem. Like, we found it, seem to have resolved it. Doesn't mean we won't have other problems in the future or something, but we've been chasing this thing for a while. And honestly, inside the carburetor, there was evidence of trouble, but not like sometimes it's really bad and you go, oh yeah, that's it right there. We definitely had some silt, and those passages in the carburetors are very small, so what a relief. May sound crazy, but this thing, I've said it before, it is in contention for being the most fun vehicle that we have. Like, it's got its limitations. We've never taken it on the highway. We've done over 50 in it, but it's, I don't know, might be a little squirrely at speed. I know it'll do it with the overdrive transmission, but it's super peppy. It's like driving a go-kart. Doesn't weigh anything. It's got no doors. It's got no top. Like, headed out from the local burger stand, Old Burger Crush in Smyrna, Georgia. Try it if you're in the area. It's really good. They know me by name, man. We stop in every weekend. Support your local businesses if you can. You know what I'm saying? Dude actually stopped me at the hamburger stand and said, hey, what year is that? I told him it was an 89. He's like, man, I had an 87. He's like, so much fun. And I was like, yeah, man, they are so much fun. And that's not an exaggeration. All right, gang. What a relief, what a success, and what a good day to be driving a little old Jeep. If you're interested in the flashlight, the Woobin flashlight, I think it's pretty great so far. We're going to keep using it. There's a link in the description. They've offered a discount to Between the Sharks viewers, which I think is pretty neat. Same with the Topdon jump pack and battery tester. The testing function on it's pretty cool. We got to see how it does as a jump pack, but if you're interested or you need one, I think there's a sale coming up for Prime Day, plus the discount code. Maybe it'll get you a real good deal. Don't know. And if you've made it this far in the video, thanks for watching Between the Sharks. Consider subscribing. It really does help the channel. It's the #1 thing you can do to help us out over here. Good luck on your projects, and we will see you